The storm moved towards the Andaman Sea, bringing heavy rains across the southern regions. And authorities have warned that those living on hill slopes near waterways and in lowlands of severe weather and possible more flash flooding. Also, all vessels in the Gulf of Thailand have been advised to remain in port during this period. Furthermore, the Meteorological Department expects that the south will be inundated for a long time, as another depression is likely to hit the southern provinces of Chumphon and Phang Nga during the 5th and 6th of this month, and heavy rains are likely to cover the area until the 8th of November.
Just to recap, rising waters began to inundate Hat Yai district of Songkhla on Monday after days of heavy downpours. As we just mentioned, it has affected tens of thousands of people, including foreign tourists. Now, the water level in some districts was over 3 meters, and this is the worst flooding in 10 years. Many residents are stranded on the second floor of their homes, unable to venture out for food and supplies. Tourists in Hat Yai are forced to stay in their hotel rooms, as rescuers and relief supplies have yet to reach them. There's about 850,000 people living in the greater Hat Yai area, with 180,000 Kunarwit in the city center itself. So it's all concentrated in one small district.
Right, and there's also been disruption to infrastructure. Now, major roads in Hat Yai, such as Phet Kasem, Thamanun Bithi, and Nipat Uthit, were cut off by floods, and all train services to Hat Yai were halted after 2-meter deep waters flooded the track and the platform. Now, to worsen matters, a sudden power failure created panic throughout the municipality. Meanwhile, banks, petrol stations, schools and also state agencies have been shut indefinitely. More than 500 patients at Hat Yai Hospital also had to be evacuated to higher floors in order to avoid surging floodwaters. And 2 of their 3 generators at the hospital are now out of action, while fuel to run the third is currently running low.
Meanwhile, the central markets in Hat Yai is underwater by about 1.2 meters, so that means people can't get to food. The mayor of Hat Yai, Prai Patano, admitted that municipal authorities were caught off guard by the unusually heavy flooding. He admitted that authorities were at their wits' end in trying to deal with the crisis and to get help through to the victims. He said that about 80% of Hat Yai was now submerged, and more than 30,000 households are affected, with people stranded and helpless as rescuers couldn't reach them yet. Their Majesties, the King and Queen, have ordered staff from the Thaksin Palace in Narathiwat to supply food and clothing to the flood victims. And these officials have delivered about 5,000 bags of supplies by helicopters to various areas in Songkhla, Pattani, Yala, Narathiwat, and Satun. Meanwhile, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army are working to try, with aid agencies, to try to get relief to the flood victims.
Right. Also, on top of that, the Prime Minister, Apicitwe Chashiwa, yesterday visited Songkhla to coordinate help with local authorities, as well as to ensure government support to all the victims. Now, according to the Prime Minister, there are still no signs of the water receding yet, but his mission would be to focus on rescuing stranded people in those areas. Now, the Navy's aircraft carrier, the Chakri Narubet, and another vessel was sent south to Songkhla province yesterday. Now, this aircraft carrier was loaded with necessities such as flat-bottom boats and all kinds of boats, tents, mobile toilets, and also relief bags that will then be distributed to the flood victims. Also on board the Chakri Narubet will be 4 Seahawk helicopters and also amphibious craft that will be used to conduct rescue operations, as well as to distribute relief packages. And the aircraft carrier will also serve as a floating hospital and a base for flood relief operations while it's down south.
Right, they're also going to be trying to cook some food on the aircraft carrier, maybe 700 or 800 packages a day, and bring them out to the flood victims.
Right.
We move on to Koh Samui. Now, Koh Samui yesterday experienced a blackout for more than 14 hours after power poles in many areas were brought down by the storm. The depression over the island caused tidal waves of up to 3 to 4 meters in height, and authorities have warned people, especially tourists, to avoid beach areas. Hundreds of tourists were left stranded at the harbor after ferries were temporarily grounded. Samui Airport resumed services yesterday evening after being closed temporarily due to heavy downpours and poor visibility, and this affected about 1,400 passengers. The first Bangkok Airways flight departed from Samui to Bangkok at 9 p.m. last night, while the Thai Airways first flight to Samui left this morning, Kunaglit.
Right, okay, and moving on to other provinces in the area. Now, officials have issued warnings to people while they are awaiting help. The authorities have declared parts of Nakhon Si Thammarat and Surat Thani and all 11 districts in Phatthalung. They are now all flood disaster zones. Now, in Surat Thani province, they've issued an announcement prohibiting all kinds of boats except for ferries from leaving shore, and that is due to the rough seas in the area. Now, as a result, around 100 tourists have now been stranded at Got Tao and Ang Thong Marine National Park. Authorities have also warned people to watch out for mudslides and also flash flooding, as the heavy rains and high tides are expected to persist for a few more days. So we're not out of the danger zone yet.
Not. From Krabi, we move to Phuket, where a mudslide warning has been issued for 18 locations in the province. National park officials have ordered a temporary closure of Surin and Similan Marine National Parks, as well as Si Phang Nga and 10 waterfalls in Phang Nga for safety reasons. 13 commercial banks have temporarily closed 123 branches in the southern provinces, and this includes ATM machines. They've been closed as well. Now, the death toll is climbing, and death toll has risen to 111, including 3 foreigners. Now, most of the victims were from the central and eastern regions, which for the past 2 weeks have been suffering from heavy floods. But 8 deaths occurred yesterday in Songkhla, including 2 children.
Right, so that continues to rise. Now, one of the key problems in this issue is
rescue operations.
In rescue operations is the communication problem that they're having at the moment. Now, power failures have disrupted thousands of base stations for cellular phones. Mobile phones connections have failed in many areas, particularly in Hat Yai, Nakhon Si Thammarat, Phatthalung, Pattani and Surat Thani. Yesterday, the Information and Communication Technology Ministry deployed mobile satellites in order to upload units to restore cell phone communications in the southern provinces. Now, according to the ministry, around 80 out of 200 cell sites in the southern provinces were out of order, and that was mainly because their power generators had been damaged by storms and also heavy rains. But they do expect that the mobile satellite upload units will restore some of the communications by later today.
But we focused on the hardship of the people and the efforts to provide relief to them. There's also an assessment now of the damage to the economy. The Federation of Thai Industries estimate that the economic damage from recent weeks of flooding to be about 50 billion baht. Now, the farm sector is especially hard hit, as rubber and oil palm plantations and food processing plants in the south are inaccessible, and this will result in a delay in product deliveries. Natural rubber output may drop to about 4.1% in the 4th quarter as heavy rain disrupts latex tapping. Production from October to December may total about 933,000 tons compared to the 970,000 tons a year ago. However, rubber shipments are expected to remain unchanged this year at 2.7 million tons. Average prices are estimated at 100 to 105 baht per kilogram, compared to only 65 baht per kilogram last year.
Right, now if we can stick with the economic fallout, the Thai Chamber of Commerce has said that damages from the flood in the south were expected to be much higher than those in 2000, when the Thai economy was just starting to recover from the 1997 to 98 economic crisis. Now, according to the Thai Chamber of Commerce, the damages from the flood in the south are estimated to be at least 5 billion baht. And the TCC also expects flooding to trim the value of border trade by as much as 200 billion baht from a projection of 900 billion baht. The products most affected are sugarcane, rice, and raw construction materials. However, exports of electronic goods and automotive parts to Malaysia have been partially suspended also, as the Sadao border checkpoint has been closed due to the flooding. However, products, as we mentioned before, such as natural rubber, electronic devices, and completely knocked down auto parts are usually shipped through Sadao checkpoint every day, so that will affect them also.
Also, looking ahead economically, shipments of consumer goods, raw materials, and petrol between Bangkok and the south were delayed by many hours yesterday, and this has raised concerns that their shortages may occur when a